The reason why I stuck with Red Velvet for 4 years now and have never been disappointed by their work mainly boils down to one reason. That obviously being the music, of course. But I guess the second most important reason is being their talent as well. Their concepts? Yeah, I guess we could talk about that. Red Velvet are known as the undisputed queens of concepts for a reason. They stand out and they also take inspiration from every genre and style of arts and media, making their library of references extensive, which just makes the music just that more fantastic. Every good piece of music deserves a good concept along with it. But why does it work with Red Velvet every time? Let's take a deeper look. As you know, the basics of Red Velvet's concepts can either be two things. Their red concept, a more bubblegum, pop/cute and bright concept, which can go extremely weird and quirky, really wacky outfits and fantasy settings. And the other is their velvet concept, a more sultry and mature concept which have cooler and darker tones and bold outfits. They tackle darker themes and lean into more subtle and sexier moods in both genres, music videos and outfits. And sometimes the concept can be a mix of both. I think a perfect representation for their red concepts would be Red Flavor or Rookie, whilst for Velvet it would be Bad Boy or Psycho. Queendom and Really Bad Boy are great mixes of both in my opinion, and I would even argue that Russian Roulette could fit in that category of both concepts. And with their concepts, it's not just a cute little backdrop with bright clothes or a dark room with more plaid and leather clothes. I mean, they go absolutely batshit crazy with their concepts, and that's why they stand out. When the effort of the concept with how developed they are matches how perfected the songs are, you know you're in for a treat. And this is where I want to introduce the idea of committing to the concept. A lot of the concepts these days in the K-pop industry feel extremely lackluster to me. It is kinda hard to find a group with a concept for their comeback that stands out, as they're normally carbon copies of the latest trends in the darker and badass concepts. And even with the lighter, more cute concepts as well, it's hard to come by one that feels completely new or interesting, as again, they all feel completely the same. And that's not me saying the music is bad and the artists don't deserve any praise, because majority of the time it's the creative team's decision rather than any of the group members. I'm generalising a lot here, and I'm not referring to any groups or artists in particular at all, because we don't need that type of energy. But going back to Red Velvet, every time they come back, you will always have people, whether they're fans or not, talking about the concept, whether it be in absolute awe of it or absolute confusion. Zimzalabim's concept was a hyperactive theme park circus festival theme with mad colour and outfit combinations that really got people talking. But at the end of the day, the concept stood out and had such a clear identity that people knew what Zimzalabim was, and people still remember it to this day. Looking at the other end, Psycho had the same approach, but of course its concept was in a much different light to Zimzalabim's. Psycho focused on a more glamorous and somber storytelling, which is also reflected in the concepts and outfits. The colours are a colder palette with more muted tones, and I think it also coming out in the winter season also affected the use of colours. It was a dark concept, but not in an edgy nor girl crush fashion that we'd usually see from other groups. It was its own thing because Psycho told a story and a lesson. The synergy between Psycho's concepts, styling, and the song itself is immaculate. Like Zimzalabim and many of their other concepts, committing to the concept and fleshing it out shapes the comebacks as meaningful, and is why people remember them and still listen to them to this day. So you're probably wondering, what makes a bad concept then? Really, I don't think there are bad concepts, because there will always be a team behind the concept at the end of the day that put in a lot of hard work and thought behind them. So I don't think there can objectively be a bad concept. Can they be boring? Yes. Can they be confusing? Yes. And a lot of the time there's no clear intention or idea behind them, meaning they can result in both. But there is always something in those concepts that I enjoy so much, and that's why I can never actively hate any of them. Or at worst, I just don't think about them and I don't feel anything towards them. And I feel like if I'm talking about why Feel My Rhythm was so successful, especially when it came to the concept, I need to give a good example of a concept that fell into a kind of messy category and explain what not to do when it comes to creating a concept for a comeback. Now, here's the kicker. We're going to be looking at Queendom for this example. Now, I don't think Queendom's concept is bad at all, and it has a lot more direction compared to regular concepts you'll find in the wider K-pop industry. For me, in comparison to the rest of Red Velvet's concepts, it falls behind a little bit. Queendom has a variety of concepts which include a witch/coven concept, a festival concept, a late 90s, early 2000s bedroom concept, and a giant girl bosses taking over city concepts. It is a lot and it doesn't make too much sense on surface level just looking at it. All the concepts on their own are great, but altogether these concepts have no clear correlation when it comes to representing Queendom that much. I think the music video does really help in linking all the concepts together, especially the witch concepts. And the whole storyline of Queendom presented in the music video is the power of Queendom and how women can be rulers in every aspect of life. This can be used as an argument to why the concept is all over the place, showing a variety of positions Red Velvet and their Queendom have power over and celebrating that. But I think only getting that just from the music video and the song itself and not the rest of the comeback is a disservice to the Queendom comeback. Obviously this is all up to interpretation and others might have interpreted the concepts within Queendom and the song itself differently, making it much clearer for them. But for me it just doesn't achieve as well compared to Red Velvet's other concepts. I still thoroughly enjoy Queendom and I love all the concepts individually. What should be taken away from this is that concepts with its imagery and storytelling not having any direction or correlation between them will more likely fail in conveying the message they want to get across to the audience. The audience will disengage with it and the comeback won't be received as well. Concepts are a massive part of a comeback in the K-pop industry and missing the mark when it comes to creating a concept will not be good. Queendom luckily still has some validation with the music video, stages and what the Queendom is, but it does quietly lean into the vague concept a little bit, with a small lack of direction. Music and imagery go hand in hand, and if one slips, then the whole project comes crashing down. Now, saying all of that, I can finally talk about Red Velvet's comeback after Queendom. Queendom gave me everything Red Velvet that I had missed for the past year and a half, but Feel My Rhythm was a manifesto to why Red Velvet are a top tier act. Feel My Rhythm understands why music and imagery work so well with each other and celebrates it through this comeback. It has references to so many eras and so many forms of art. It is orgasmic, I'm not even kidding. The eras and movements that are referenced include the Romanticism era, including Rococo and Impressionism, and some references to postmodernism with Surrealism, and even earlier movements such as the Renaissance era. These eras encapsulate all types of art, including dance, literature, music, and paintings. Starting with the Romanticism era of art, which lasted from the late 18th century to the mid 19th century. The characteristics of this era include an appreciation for nature's beauty, a deeper expression in emotion and feeling, and a general appreciation for the world around them. This is a really loose explanation, by the way. We see these characteristics throughout Feel My Rhythm's concepts, including the music video. In fact, the album cover itself looks like a painting from the period of Romanticism. The Capriccioso concept represents the Romantic era as well, with it highlighting the beauty of nature through the girls and the scenery. The outfits as well are more natural and flowery colours, and the textures as well, the tulle reflects the beauty of nature as well. Many of the photos are also reminiscent of paintings you'd find in the Romantic and Rococo era, with the natural scenery, positions and bright clothing. The only difference I say is the saturation of the concept photos being much brighter than the paintings you see from that era, but I think that's just because it's part of the festival series, being the Reeve Festival 2022, and you expect like festivals to have like much more bright and saturated colours, so that makes sense why it looks like that. Continuing Continuing on to the music video, it again has references to the romantic era throughout. Feel My Rhythm itself, the song, has a clear theme of love and celebration, and the use of orchestral instruments and the sounds draws back to the theme of romanticism. The romantic era had very many famous composers creating that time, including Chopin, Tchaikovsky and Beethoven, so there's no wonder that orchestral music was a big aspect to this comeback. One of the biggest parts of the music video, which many people picked up on, were the various shots in the music videos recreating famous paintings. An article on MV Media has a great explanation for each era of paintings and does a much better job than me, so I'd highly recommend checking it out. Paintings that are referenced include Rococo era paintings such as The Swing and Lady Looking Behind the Wall, Impressionism era paintings with Women with a Parasol, Hide and Seek and Young Women Knitting, Surrealism with Barbarians, Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood with Ophelia and nymphs finding the head of Orpheus, and the Renaissance era with the Garden of Earthly Delights and the Birth of Venus. The paintings come from eras in art movement that tie into the rest of the eras referenced throughout Feel My Rhythm, including the music, dance and imagery. The Rococo and Impressionism era crossover with Romanticism. The Renaissance era has an important part in the concept as well, and it is referenced in the imagery in the music video and with the ballet part of the concept, with it being the era where the dance started. Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood refers to a secret society of artists during the 1800s and primarily through the last year of Romanticism into the modernist era. Surrealism happened during the majority of the 1900s during the postmodern movement, which rejected normality and challenged the idea of art by leaning more into the abstract. This could be argued to be reflected in the sound of Feel My Rhythm by both mixing some of the music from this era being orchestral with some music from the present day that we live now, including the trap genre, which could be seen as unusual as you wouldn't think those would go together, but they do really well. It is also seen in the scenes in the music video with Yeri, with the dancers around her moving unusually and wearing outfits that reference surrealism with how abstract they are. Ballet is obviously a concrete part of this concept, with the girls donning the outfits in the Calmato concept and then being worn in both the music videos and stages in the dance practices. This is not that surprising because not only was ballet a big part of the Renaissance era, the Romantic era, and going into the modern era with France and Russia having a big hand in that, but in the past year or so, ballet core being an aesthetic has become really popular and people are taking inspiration from ballets and similar things like that, and we see it a lot more in like TV shows and stuff nowadays, so I thought that would be like another reason why they could take inspiration from ballet now. Ballet started around the 1500s in Italy during the Renaissance movement as court entertainment. In the next 200 or so years, ballet was seen as an important component to the orchestra as well, and it was clearly important that both of them were to be performed together. This again displays Feel My Rhythm's concept and its direction, as it uses orchestral instruments and imagery as well as ballet as a core feature of this concept. All the synergy between the art movements and the eras and all the different ways it can be manifested through, whether it be dance, music or imagery, concludes that the purpose of Feel My Rhythm's concept and the whole comeback is to celebrate art in all its forms. There's so many more points I could go through with how Feel My Rhythm celebrates art in all its forms and eras. I've briefly gone over some of my favourite parts, and I don't even know how much of it makes sense, but I hope you can understand how amazing Feel My Rhythm's concept is. It is a testament to how brilliant Red Velvet are at mastering concepts and how committing to a concept will do wonders for your comeback. So it makes it stand out and it makes it interesting and it makes the audience and the listener take on something new and give them a fresh experience to think about, instead of just listening to it and just moving on with the rest of their life. To take such a meaningful message, a love letter to art over centuries and decades in many forms, and to execute it so beautifully, is why Red Velvet are above and beyond. It could have been easily half-assed and absolute dog shit if there was no thought other than just getting a comeback out, and that just wouldn't be what Red Velvet is. You can see that they're so passionate about this piece of work and passionate about the whole concept, and they love what they do. You can feel and see their passion throughout this comeback, as well as the creative team behind this as well. If Queendom was a reintroduction into Red Velvet after a year and a half of being away, Feel My Rhythm is a celebration of everything they are. Great music, great talents, great concepts, and an untested passion and love for what they do. And that is why Feel My Rhythm is a conceptual masterpiece. Again, I'd highly recommend the articles and sources I used throughout the video if you would like to read more into this. They were a great help and such interesting reads. I don't know when I'll be back with another video, as it took me a long time to write and probably long to edit now, but I have some ideas. Please keep appreciating art no matter what era or movement it's from, and I'll see you all very soon.